I serve a congregation of mostly people who voted for Kamala Harris and mostly people who were pretty torn up this past Sunday. I serve a congregation of mostly white people who did not believe that this was the country they live in, and a smaller number of people of color who told us, well, this is the world we live in. Y'all just haven't been seeing it, right? I serve a people, all of my people, almost all of my people, who I found brokenhearted this past week. Months ago, my staff team and I sat down and planned to hold a day of respite the day after the election, no matter what happened, right? We will be together. We will be as community. We will commit to one another that we are going to work through whatever we need to work through together. So we planned. We had listening circles. We had a song circle. We had a space for just our people of color. We had spaces for our children and our youth, because we are a holding people, right? The church is a place where we are held and where we are sent forth. And we said, today might be a day where people need some holding. When I woke up on Wednesday, because I fell asleep on Tuesday because I got a kid, and you gotta do the things no matter what happens the next day. When I woke up on Wednesday, I was surprised by the results, and I went into church knowing I would be holding other people all day with my own hurt, right? And the beauty is, and this is what I told my people on Sunday, on my way in, I was already held. I woke up to a text message from our communications specialist who sent to our whole staff team group text thread, because that's what you do when you have a millennial minister as your boss. You all have a text thread. And she said, you all who are going to be on site supporting our folks today, let me know how I can support you. Part-time communications consultant, but she is part of the shared ministry, for we are all doing shared ministry together at our church, right? A couple weeks before that, our board president sent an email to our staff team saying, thank you for holding this space, and I hope that you all are tending to each other and yourselves too. So when I arrived on Wednesday, late, because I said today's not the day to skip breakfast, I knew I was already held. I knew I was already held by the other leaders in my congregation and by the other ministers in this city. The reading that you heard is the reading that we had on Sunday. I didn't find that reading. Reverend Sarah at Green Street United Methodist Church found that reading, and she sent it to our group that gathers every Tuesday, right? We are held by each other. I received support from people I went to divinity school with who are states away, for we hold each other. So know that the relationships that you all are building here and now will support you in weird political times. They'll support you when the board of your church is trying to rally against you. We know that people are people, right? These people here will be your people. These people in whatever community you go to serve will be your people who hold you through whatever might come as well. Okay. Back to my people. I arrived on Wednesday, not being sure what would happen, but already being known that I was held in love, right, by the other leaders in my community. And my people showed up, a steady stream of people in and out of the church, people who had never been in our doors before who came, people who had not been in our doors for over a decade who came back, because they were needing community. They were needing a place to cry. They were needing a place to hope. They showed up messy, beautiful, angry, in fear, thoroughly exhausted from having to fight their whole lives and not having any fight left. They showed up in so many ways, and they held each other. They held each other, for that is what we do. And so on Sunday, I told them, for this is often what we do, we just see things and then we tell it to people in nicer words, right? We're the bards of community. And I said, you all are making paradise right here. You who might be fearing and feeling that the world you thought was true is crumbling, you who might be exhausted, you still showed up and you still held one another. And that is all we can do now or ever. That is all we can do, is show up and hold one another and protect one another, right? We made a commitment to keep showing up for each other. We made a commitment to continue to care and protect for people who might not be currently in our care, but who might be wanting to come into our space. We made a commitment to keep showing up, to holding one another, to being loved, to being real with one another, being angry, being hurt, being however we need to be. We said, being with you is my prayer. Being with you is my prayer. For it is, and it always is, and that is something that will never change. The togetherness, the holding, the paradise that we can build together. We have gorgeous sunflowers on our altar, thanks to your stellar worship team. And a beautiful fact that I love about sunflowers is that they actually absorb toxins and acid and really harmful to us chemicals in soil. The sunflowers can actually take them in and continue to grow, continue to bloom and become beautiful. They've been planted after multiple nuclear disasters to try and reform the soil in the area there so that it once again could be hospitable for others. We must, no matter what times we are in, take a moment to look at the flowers. As Howard Thurman reminded us, to hear the birds singing, know that the stars are still shining, and know that they are working wonders beyond often what we're really aware of, right? We must be open to these small joys and to the joy that is being with one another and being held by one another, no matter what our world may have happen in it, right? We know this. You all know this. Howard Thurman told us that we need not fear evil, but we must understand it. We must understand it, for the real target of evil is ourselves. Is that the evil moves from something else to inside ourselves, that we become separated from God, that we become separated from one another, that we are no longer holding one another. And so we come together week after week to remind ourselves to hold one another, to remind ourselves to cultivate our relationship with our God, with whatever is divine for us. For even when we're in divinity school, sometimes, especially when we're in divinity school, right? It can be easy to lose that relationship, and it is so vital that we keep it going. For it's our colleagues, our peers who keep us going, and it's our relationship with Spirit that keeps us going, that keeps us grounded. Now, because we're at divinity school, I get to talk a little bit more about theology. I think I can, there we go. I think that most of you, is this still loud enough? All right. I think that most of you have probably read some about social gospel theology, which is this concept that the heaven that we long for, the world we long for, is something that we need to be working towards in the here and now, and that it's our job to keep that dream, that image of heaven, close in our minds, close in our tastes. We can smell it, we can taste it, we can imagine what heaven can smell like. Some might say a big pot of stew, maybe lasagna. I don't know what it smells like for you. But social gospel theology tells us that we need to dream it and keep that close so that we can keep working towards it. I love that theology. I always have, I always will. It will always be near and dear to me. And sometimes, and especially right now for me and for my people who I serve, it maybe feels a little far away, honestly, and it can be discouraging. But when can we get there, right? We know it's not ours to do. We trust that somewhere in our ancestry, maybe we'll get closer to that world. But it is an image that can sometimes leave us feeling a little bit discouraged. So, another concept called radically realized eschatology is, I think, helpful for us and our people at times. Now, in this concept of eschatology, we say that there are little pieces of paradise, little snippets of heaven here on earth, in perhaps the sunflower that's absorbing toxins, that's absorbing poison from our earth. Little pieces of heaven in how we gather and how we hold each other no matter what happens. Little pieces of paradise here on earth, and it is our job first to notice them, right? And especially when times are tough, noticing might be enough, right? My assignment for my people this past week was just notice. We'll do more later, but just notice right now. But it's our job to notice and then to nurture, right? To nurture these pieces of paradise, and our church communities should be little pieces of paradise, right? People holding one another, people tending to mind God, people tending the Spirit and making it alive here and now. We tend to the paradises we find, we nurture them, and we grow them in hopes that they can spill over and become more and more of our world. I have a quote from Rebecca Parker, who's a dually ordained as a United Methodist and a Unitarian Universalist, and was the president of our seminary in California for a long time. She wrote about radically realized eschatology, that we come to know this world as paradise when our hearts and souls are reborn through the arduous and tender task of living rightly with one another and the earth. Generosity and mutual care are the pathways into knowing that paradise is here and now. She goes on to say this way of living is not utopian. It does not spring from the imagination of a better world, but from a profound embrace of this world. It brings hope home today to this moment and its possibilities for faithful love. We here among us hold possibilities for faithful love. You know that. You've held each other in all sorts of times already, right? This is our task, to cultivate these pieces of paradise in our community, to help attune our people to the paradise among us so they might nurture it and grow it, to remind them that what we do together is building that paradise here on earth. For we are a paradise people. Our task as clergy, right, is to keep holding one another, for we too need these people and places of paradise for us, right? We too need the person who we can text saying, my kid is sick and I did not sleep, and can you please help me find this right word? right? We need people who hold us. We need people who remind us to keep our prayer life central in our lives. We need people to hold us accountable. We too need to be held, as we do so much holding. So keep holding one another so that you can hold all those you will serve and continue to build pieces of paradise here on this earth, for this earth is so in need of more places of paradise. Amen. May it be so, and may we all make it so.